Yeah, and here you really have taken action, and about both learning and being willing to learn and take action, take responsibility, let's say proper responsibility, and actually do something in your, let's say, environment where you can actually control something. Tell us a little bit about the, maybe not only resistance, but the challenges that have faced you that maybe you would want to make people aware about, that okay, you have to take action, you have to be brave and take responsibility and do something, but also you have to be cautious against, let's say, certain elements, risk factors, challenges that would be very wise to be prepared about. And I'm taking this also to the digital space, continuing your learning journey with the Metaverse. Like, how much have you had to learn about taking the Metaverse as a pioneer educator in Mexico into education, and then how your learning journey has evolved? What mistakes have you made, and what learnings have you gained towards improvements, and so on? And then we can focus more on the Metaverse and AI.
Sure, yeah. So I think you talk about risk over reward. I think you do have to really think about that before you make that kind of big decision. I took the decision to cash in my pension. I sold my car. I put all of my life savings and my wife's life savings and my son's life savings into this project. So the initial risk is high, right? So I would say it is risky to do that because it might not have worked. However, I also think that the reward of what will come out of that is more than just financial. So I think if I have one small school that works really well, that'll pay me a wage. If it can grow and bigger, it could become a financial success. But I was never concentrating on that element, and that's really important because in my experience of sort of the international corporate world, there's too much emphasis on making money, right? There isn't the right amount of emphasis on teaching children or learning. And I think that that kind of comment would be true of many of the international schools groups that I see out there. It's kind of a bit of a facade to just simply make money around the world. They're buying up lots of different schools around the world and causing problems in those local communities. So I think focusing, when I talk to parents, and I'm a parent in the school, so I think putting my child in the school was also quite risky as well. But it was vital. It was absolutely vital for two reasons. I'll tell you two reasons. Number one, I strongly believe in my educational vision, and I think it's the best place for my son in the local community. And I think that message that goes out to my local community is actually also really important, is that I'm saying, this is the way that I want to see my son educated from now on. And those kinds of ideas help balance out those risk and reward type ideas. But definitely, there is great risk in starting your own private school in Mexico.
Wow, it's so nice to hear your energy, your passion, your Ikigai, telling about the system of the project, your journey. It's fascinating. I have a question for you, John. I don't know if you know that I am teaching the Movie Van, which is a project of cinema with children. It's also high motivation in the classroom. Not always in the classroom. We go outside, we go outdoors, and we do a lot of films together and podcasts, and we do kind of projects that are risky too, okay? That they are not following the system, the curriculum. And I have found sometimes problems with the IB program, like fitting my project in the concept of IB or Spanish system. I am really wondering, how are you managing to fit all these metaverse and artificial intelligence in the curriculum that Mexico, I imagine, is asking you, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a really good question. I be at the diploma level, and the university system here in Mexico, the SEP system, actually really not very compatible. to be honest. So as you go further, as you go lower down and you go into kinder and primary, there is more flexibility. I would say there is more flexibility. In primary and kinder, there's a lot more latitude to bring in these types of projects. But it's really important to mention, as I just said, like Mexico has got the right idea. The Mexican educational reform is coming into play this September. And my teachers are going to go on a 2-week training course. And basically what they've done is they adopted project-based learning. They haven't really adopted phenomenon-based learning, but they've adopted project-based learning. So when I actually submitted my sort of philosophical paperwork to the government, I was expecting, I was maybe get a mixed reaction from it. But actually they invited me to give the keynote speech when all 48 schools were being admitted into the system. And so I got a chance to meet the Director General of the state of Mexico. And what he said was, it's really important that all of our schools now understand that we're project-based learning schools. So there was little bit of luck there as well. Like the change in Mexico was just at the right time. I think fitting in IB film is quite an interesting one, right? So fitting in those concepts in IB film can be tricky because it's very prescriptive. One thing you would say about IB is it's excellent, but it's very, very prescriptive. So getting those things in is complicated. What we do really is the way that Mexico works is you have a system of supervision. So actually, when you get given your license, you get assigned a supervisor for your school, and the supervisor is going to put their grandson in the school this year. So she came along, she saw the school, I explained the plans and the program to her, and initially she was quite reserved. But then, she opened up and I explained the whole system, etc. And now she's putting her grandchild. Her grandchild was in the school this week because you can see exactly what we're trying to achieve. And it's coherent, like the plan that I'm putting forward to parents and the plan that I'm putting forward to SEP is slightly radical, but it's coherent. And so whenever I got a chance to sit down with an educator or a parent, etc., and I need a lot of time. I really need about an hour to 90 minutes to explain it all. But actually, at the end of the hour and 90 minutes, most educators and most parents I talk to go, okay, that at least it makes sense. I might not put my child in there, but it makes sense. And this is what happened with the supervisor. The supervisor said, okay, that pedagogically that makes sense to me. So you can go ahead and run those curriculums and run those programs.
Fantastic. Here in Spain, they have examinations. Supervisors, they do examinations to children, so that would be impossible. I mean, they have to be evaluated. Children, you cannot say, no, there is no exams this cycle. I mean, it's impossible. You need to take those exams. I mean, the children need to take those exams for giving you the pass, the okay, so it's completely different from here.
Yeah, there's if Mexico's got like a whole bunch of rules and regulations, and then sometimes it has no rules and regulations. It's one of those it's an interesting country like that because part of the Mexican culture is to break rules, and at the same time part of the Mexican culture is to set a million different rules. So you've always got to play in this sort of gray area in Mexico. I'm sure Spain is quite a different type of situation,
And I have another question, sorry, about the role of the teacher, because in Metaverse and the system that you are telling us about, what is the role of that teacher? I mean, in my idea, it's a guide. It's not. We don't have those traditional teachers, telling you what to do. But in my opinion, right now, what we are trying to is to become guides in the classroom. What is the role there in the system that you are trying now?
I think the only ultimate sort of consequence I can see from all of this change is that we become guides and facilitators, as AI sort of takes over quite a lot of the work that we do day by day. Like an AI machine will always be correct, etc., etc. So in this term, but at the moment where I am with the methodology is hybrid methodology. I've partnered with a really great educator and a really great company from Australia called Metaverse, and a great friend of mine now, Andrew Wright. So Andrew really was the true pioneer, in my opinion, who started the program in a couple of schools over in Australia. He's an Apple educator, and has spent a lot of time working in this. However, he gave me the sort of the secret recipe, which is really hybrid learning. So the classroom starts it starts like a normal class. And what you really do is like let's say you have like some kind of starter activity or on the bell activity. It follows like pretty much the same sequence of a normal class. We just have our learning activities embedded into metaverse worlds. And those metaverse worlds in some way replicates the idea or the concept that we're trying to aim for inside the learning objectives. I'll be a little bit more concrete. We just recently did a sequence of classes in metaverse worlds, which was designed to talk about sustainable energy systems. So we built a narrative around a group of humans who go to another world to terraform the world. And in that narrative, they arrive and they've got to like find different energy sources and analyze which one is going to be the best one for this world. So when you go into the metaverse world, you're on this new planet. It has like sort of like a video game. It's very gamified.
Wow.
It has sort of like lots of AI art. You may as well exploit AI art. It's got lots of visuals and art. It's got other activities embedded into the world as well. And it's got a sequence of learning activities. So the student will start in the real world, they'll jump and do their first activity in the metaverse world, and then they'll come out of the world, we'll come back into the situation, we'll talk about what they learn, and then they'll go back into the world and do their second activity. End of the session, they come back out, and we sort of like, wrap up and do a normal preliminary. So it's kind of like, it's almost like the same structure as a normal class. But that inside those worlds, their pathways are more personalized. They're not hyper-personalized yet, which is what I really am looking for, hyper-personalized pathways through these worlds. But at the same time, like the collaborative nature of being inside this world. So they're set in a classroom, if you can imagine, on their 2D computers, but actually they're all interconnected inside the same world. And that kind of like adds like new social dynamics into the situation, and they kind of have to like sometimes work together to like find the answer or complete the puzzle or the process. So it's been really good. I mean, it's like an area where if you're a creative teacher, and I think most teachers are mostly creative. I think creativity is like the most important element to a school teacher. So if you can learn how to just simply manipulate the system, which is very, very easy, my youngest students who can make their own metaverse worlds are 8 years old, and they're just pulling in preset assets and things like that. But it's not that complicated. As long as you can get over the barrier with the teachers of like, okay, let's experiment, let's use this technology and see where we can go. As long as they can beat that sort of initial fear, then when they see it and they work with it, then usually the sky is the limit. And of course, like one of the great elements of Colegio Ikigai is that we have small class sizes. And we're always going to keep small class sizes. I think small class sizes are actually one of the most important factors in improving learning. So when you've got 8 to 12 children in front of you, it's very possible to innovate. I think when you've got 30 children in front of you, it becomes extremely complicated. But saying that, Andrew over in Australia has managed to do it with large class sizes as well. So it scales, and you can do it. And they're synchronous, asynchronous environments, which is really interesting. So, students can work at home in their own pace in these environments. There's many different characteristics to metaverse environments that makes them extremely attractive to teachers.
Fascinating.
Could you emphasize the creativity part and the roles between teachers and students when you work in the metaverse, and also when you have the methodology or project-based learning or phenomenon-based learning? Because I think the student-centered approach is something really critical to highlight, and the creative role that you allow for students, and maybe how your learning curve also has expanded since you first started with the metaverse, and what your plans are now and then for the future. And I would like also you to include the AI elements and the, let's say, cheating versus evaluation elements, how you're dealing with that, and what advice you might give to educators or headmasters or principals, directors, pretty much when it comes to the evaluation standards that we have not understood really well in most parts of the world.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So, well, there's been a few moments in this journey where, I've had real deep insight. And on this point, most of that insight came from you, actually, Joni. And that was like learning and thinking about how we change from a consumer model of education. And what is a consumer model of education? Like, and who benefits in a consumer model of education? Because it's not the student who's benefiting in a consumer model of education, to a creative curriculum. And that was a really difficult philosophical step for me to take, having worked 21 years inside consumer model-based systems, which actually put all the emphasis on that final outcome, that final result. Get your IB diploma. It's content exam, final exam. Do that 18 years in a run, and then do it 4 more years at university, and then do it another year to get your master's degree. And at the end of it, you try and get a job, because you haven't got the right skills, and all the companies say you don't have any life skills or any kind of real world application to get into it. Like, that system, that idea, I think is going to collapse with artificial intelligence. And I don't know, and I don't know if it's become obsolete, right? AI makes that system obsolete. So then you have to look around for alternatives. What is an alternative? So phenomenon-based learning, what I've learned is making that transition into the creative economy and putting creativity like as a highly prized skill in this journey. But what it does mean is that teachers, school leaders have to be able to relinquish control of the learning to the student, which is the most difficult emotional part of making this transition. It's like, okay, I trust you. We're here, we're going to be learning about butterflies. Our first project was about the butterflies of Morelli, and this is the way that's going to be assessed. We're going to go on this journey and we're going to learn all of these different things. But at the end, the way that you wish to interpret your project, the way that you wish to show what you learn, has now becomes a creative activity. And so what's actually happened, and I don't know, like, this is quite interesting, what's actually happened to me in teaching in these environments is actually now I'm just teaching children how to use applications, which is kind of interesting, right? So I started at first with this idea of like, I've got content to get through. We're gonna teach them everything that they need to know about metamorphosis and the migratory cycle of the butterflies. And now actually what I'm doing is I'm sitting down and saying, like, okay, here's your timeline. Let's plan out the work. This is where the final project will be. If you need me, I'm here. However, look, these are the platforms and the applications we're going to use today. Do you know how to use these applications? No? Okay, right, stop. Let's talk about this application. How do we use it correctly? Okay, off you go. You do it. Come back at the end and show me what you've done. Yeah. And so that sort of didactic sequence change inside classrooms is really incredible, because you actually see that the creative model caters to all the children in the classroom. The creative model actually levels the playing field for students with additional needs, and that creative sort of change to creativity actually allows them to unlock new abilities and new skills and new ideas. It allows them to go as high and as far as they want to go as well. So you see, like, sort of like there's no limit where they can learn. And so this is this was a very personally important point in the transition that I've been through. But when we talk about sort of artificial intelligence, again, this is new, right? We couldn't have had this conversation last December. This conversation wouldn't have made any sense. Okay. I've shown my children how to use ChatGPT. I'm using an application with them at the moment called Gamma App, which allows them to make presentations and websites instantly. I'd love to show them how to, use this no-code XR type element, which is like how they could like really start to develop businesses and develop sort of entrepreneurial skills inside that digital world. We very accurately define now through McKinsey the deltas, the distinct areas of talent, which are the 56 areas that we really want to work on and which we really want to improve. So that's been a big improvement. And my advice to educators out there about artificial intelligence is a bit like the light bulb, a bit like the fire, about the car, the industrial revolution. Like this, it's clearly not going to go away. All we need to do is look at like sort of comments from Google, Sundar Pichai. It's more important than fire. Elon Musk. The guys who really are driving those industries know exactly where and how high and how far that's going to go. And so we need to think about it extremely seriously. I think teachers in the short term to the medium term are going to really benefit from using artificial intelligence because it will reduce their workload. It'll make their lives much, much easier. I think there's going to be much more accuracy. Like I think that like it doesn't seem to make too many mistakes, even though it has this hallucination element to it. It doesn't seem to make too many mistakes. It allows children with special or additional needs to become extremely creative and not to let those sort of learning difficulties sort of affect them in any different type of way. And I think it's a great way in which you can get children learning. It's like there's many applications, particularly like the AI art applications that can lead into creative moments working with the students. And of course, I think that the student that's probably going to be extremely successful in the future is one that has got a really strong science educational, science technological, engineering, mathematical base. But actually, what's having these distinct areas of talent on top of that, and also understanding how a child can use it to improve their workflow and their ideas, I think is going to be a really successful profile. So, I've seen it written down quite a lot that this is sort of like it's sort of an idea that's passing around the internet quite a lot. People say that you're probably not going to lose your job. You're going to lose your job to someone who, you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to someone who knows how to use AI. And I think that's probably partly true, but I think you're probably going to lose your job to a child who knows how to use AI because they really know how to use it, right? They're those digital spatial natives, like to them. I remember thinking like, and I'll just quickly wrap up with this, So I remember thinking a couple of weeks ago, it was a couple of months ago, I said, I'm going to show my children AI. And I woke up in the morning and think, okay, this is going to be a magical moment. I'm going to show them a type of technology that's going to change their lives forever. I brought the kids in and I put all the magic into it. Hey, guys, I'm going to show you something. It's called artificial intelligence. It's going to change your life forever. And this is this and this is that. And the kids are just like, yeah, we know artificial intelligence exists. You don't know that. So it was like, from my perspective as an old, when I started teaching, I don't think I even had a cell phone. I think we had the big conversation in my school was like, do you use a whiteboard or a chalkboard? That was it. And that was only 20 years ago. And my son, I remember speaking to my son and said, I'm going to show you AI today. He was like, of course. Thank you. Thanks very much. Next. And so when I showed them, they assimilated it so rapidly into their days that it just wasn't a thing. It just wasn't the magical moment I was hoping for.
Yeah, but I'll give you the last word and comments. I just want to interject with my reflection there because having not been an educator starting out, but coming from the economist entrepreneurial space, then becoming an educator, I'm actually very surprised that we haven't had this kind of reaction to any of the technologies that have come so many times before us. Because as you know, Sugata Mitra said back in the days that teachers are obsolete, schools are obsolete. You just need to have self-organizing learning environments with adult supervision, basically, and kids can teach themselves anything. And with the arrival of the internet and then the smartphone, YouTube, social media, mobile applications, the entire education system has not been observing how young people are learning about anything, anytime, anywhere, with their own technologies. And so when we are afraid of this big collapse, basically we're afraid of this big zombie-like structure that still is in place for some reason, whereas most of the learning is actually happening outside of it since many years back. And the preparation for when it comes to life skills, to say something very critical, is that these life skills usually come outside of school or after school, not during school. So to become a productive employee, you don't really use your experience from school. You have your ability to learn to go through tough things. And I think I want to highlight something that Sai said in one of the last interviews that really got me thinking that, yeah, there's a good benefit with school as it is, because it teaches kids to go through something really difficult. Being it important or not for you, you learn something. So you can kind of take advantage of learning something. But still, that should not be the purpose of school, of going to school. So I'm actually happy that we have this kind of reaction now. I mean, I think the pandemic also was a wake-up call. Before the AI, the advanced AI started becoming a big thing. But still, during the pandemic, the post-pandemic period, as you also mentioned, didn't really incur any change on a general level. We had bad applications of technologies during the pandemic, and post-pandemic we had too much and wrong kind of application of technology in education. So we didn't really understand anything until now, when we have advanced AI really making it impossible to continue as we've done before. So I would like to add, let Sai ask any final questions or final comments, because I know there's a lot of more things to talk to you about, or with you, John, in a follow-up episode. I know you have a lot of things coming up, and maybe you also want to mention something, one final thing that you would like people to look at, or if you want to recommend people to follow you somewhere, please mention that. Yeah. But let's have the final question.
I have a question. I have a last question, John. How many hours of sports you do in your Ikigai school? Because I have a feeling that you are a lot of hours with the computers and doing all these technology projects. But what about dance, meditation, or just football, or paddle, or tennis? What about sports?
So sport's really important to me. Yeah. So I practice soccer. I still play soccer here in Mexico, terribly now as an old man. But well, let's talk about the last 4 days in Colegio Ikigai. So the last 4 days in Colegio Ikigai, on Monday we had a dress-up day where you could come in fancy dress, and we had a parade and a picnic. On Tuesday, on Tuesday was reverse day. Anyone could come in dressed in reverse. And the teachers, students taught teachers in reverse day. On Thursday, we had pajama and movie day where you could eat popcorn, etc. And yesterday was water fight day. So, like that was the last 4 days in Colegio. In the last 4 days, my children have not touched technology. And I think that, there's an element to school life, which it should just be fun, right? If the kids love that learning environment, that climate, they want to be in the school, it feels like your front room, you're onto a winner. Obviously, it was a different week because it was Children's Day. But I'm perfectly happy in my school just say, hey, look, pause, put those computers away, let's get outside, let's read books. We've got a nice library there. We've got a very nice garden. I'm also all about those physical, real world activities. So sports, we have 2 periods of sports a week. It's kind of a small area, but we've got quite a very creative PE teacher. We get out there as much as we possibly can. And I love that balance. Well, and again, I love my job because, like for the first time ever, you can just say, stop, we're going to do this. And I think children need to be outside in the woods, climbing trees and scraping knees and finding where their limits are more than on computers. But when we're talking about sort of academics and what we want to do with the academics, we only using these as tools to learn. They're just tools for us. But I think they're so important that these tools are going to go on to like define careers and lives and professions and new professions and lives. So we put like a lot of importance on it. But it's not the only thing we do in the school. We try and create this really safe space inside Colegio.
Fantastic. Thank you for everything today. I'm learning a lot. I'm just, it's everything so different from what I am seeing here around. So it's really, do you need any teacher there? I'm like, do you need a Spanish
Listen,
teacher? I want to
we,
feel that. I want to live that experience. Is the way that you explain it is really like science fiction, but at the same time, it's an adventure. It's a lot of emotions right here. You know, it's
yeah, and
great.
very quickly on that, another thing we do is like I believe in very low levels of admin for teachers. We do have to answer emails, we do have to talk to our parents, but inside the school, you don't have to send me an email if I'm in the room next to you. Just come and talk to us. And I give, like, the only advice really I've given my teachers this year is just be creative. Be as creative as you possible and just get the children learning again and happy in school. And I think most teachers can work with that. If that's the only thing a teacher gets given at the start of the year. Look, be creative, make sure your children are happy and learning in the school. Like 99% of teachers can work within that framework and kids will learn things. They don't need so much administration on top of them.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
those
John.
are so fantastic and beautiful comments, John, and with your real interest in the balance there. I'm really happy to have heard that as your final comment. And I'm very happy to hear more from you in a follow-up episode. But final recommendations from your side, a final, let's say, word of encouragement to teachers who might be afraid, directors who might be afraid of the looming AI coming to take over a lot of things, and some reference. Where can people find you?
Absolutely, yeah. I said, fear is a natural part of life, right? We have to learn. All of us have to learn how to deal with our fears. I think there's some reasons, good reasons, why we should look very carefully at AI. But I think in terms of teaching, schools, administrations, it's going to make our lives easier in the short term to the medium term. We don't really know what's going to happen. I've been following this great thought leader called Ethan Mollick. And Ethan Mollick says the singularity has already arrived now in education. So even like sort of like the most brightest and intelligent minds on the planet are saying, hey, we don't actually know what's going to happen in the next couple of years. I would embrace it. I would use it. And I do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, it can make your life a lot easier. Number two, the quality of your classes can increase really, really quickly. Number three, your children will be much more motivated to be inside those environments. So I think there's a lot of great sort of educational reasons why you would want to embrace artificial intelligence. But I think we're also right to be fearful of it. I think it's also right to ask those questions about where are we going to go with it, especially if it becomes extremely more advanced than us and extremely self-aware. Ethan Mollick says it's going to become undetectable, ubiquitous, and transformative inside our classrooms. We won't even notice it's there in the future, which I think is about right. But at the same time, right now, if you're a teacher like me, and like my Sundays used to just be dedicated just to working on classwork, if you want to skip that Sunday and get your Sundays back, use artificial intelligence to help you plan your lessons, design resources, and take it into these newer areas. There's everything to be gained and there's nothing to be lost, in my opinion. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, unless you want to follow me on TikTok and see like my head transforming into horses and things like that. You're probably best to follow me on LinkedIn. So I have a newsletter called the Future Education 3.0. We've just actually released a new WhatsApp group today called Education 3.0, and I've got a very interesting sort of WhatsApp group called Future Education 3.0. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm like Johnny says, I'm very active. I get most of my best ideas from LinkedIn, to be honest, and most of my best contacts. It's a great resource to use. So you can follow me there, and I'd be happy to chat to anybody who's interested to find out more.
Fantastic, John. And is colegioikigai.com the website of the school?
It's www.colegioikigai.edu.mx. It's about to go through a revamp as well. So, you can take a look there. And yeah, that's the website.
Fantastic, John. So thank you so much for today, and thank you, Sai. And I look much forward to having a follow-up very soon to hear all about John's experiments in the future and the future education. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Very much.